Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I decided to make a cozy, comforting Puerto Rican cook with me. Watch me make some delicious carne guisada my way with some white rice and some sweet plantains. So let's get into it. All right, so with fall here, I love making some delicious stewed meats, and they're just perfect for the cold, chilly weather. Here I have about 1.5 pounds of some stewed beef. I'm gonna add a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, the juice of half of a lime. If your lime is extremely juicy, just add half of that juice. I say about a tablespoon is enough. You don't want your carne guisada to be super limey. And I'm gonna give that a really good mix. So this is gonna be the foundation for my marinade. I'll be adding some other stuff. And as always, I will have all of the ingredients in the description box below. And always feel free to adjust any of the ingredients according to your preferences. So now I'm gonna add my fresh homemade sofrito. I do have 2 videos on my channel on how I make sofrito. This ingredient cannot be swapped out for anything else. This is crucial for our Puerto Rican carne guisada alongside with some tomato sauce. Here I'm adding about 3 tablespoons or so. You can use any brand of tomato sauce that you like. And then I'm gonna add some diced pimientos. This gives it a nice touch. I'm gonna add a little bit of stuffed Spanish olives. Ooh, that was a tongue twister. Stuffed Spanish olives. Gonna add a couple of those. You can omit these if you don't like them. And a little bit of all-purpose seasoning. This is the Lori's Casero Total Seasoning. Feel free to use adobo or any other garlic-based all-purpose seasoning. I'm only going to add a little bit because I'm going to add other ingredients that also have salt, such as this Goya Sazon. I'm going to use 1 entire packet of Goya Sazon. Now, while this does have sodium, it's not an exaggerated amount, so do not be afraid to add the whole packet. And I'm also going to add some beef bouillon. And then I mashed up about 2 garlic cloves in my pilon here. A pilon is basically, I think it's called a mortar and pestle in English, I think. But yeah, use a garlic smasher, whatever. Just smash up the garlic, chop it up, and add it with your other ingredients. It's gonna give it a really nice flavor. Mix that up really, really well. And I'm gonna let this marinate in my fridge for at least 2 hours before I get to cooking. So whenever I'm cooking any kind of meal, the first thing I like to do is start with the meat, because once I have my meat going, then I can just set it to the side and focus on my other side dishes. So to start this carne guisada, I'm gonna go ahead and saute half of a chopped white onion. Give it a good stir. I added a little bit of olive oil in the pan. And by the way, remember, I'm only using 1.5 pounds of beef. If you want to double or triple the recipe, be sure to adjust the rest of the ingredients in the description box accordingly. All right, so now that my onions are pretty soft, I'm going to go ahead and add my meat. Since this is a stew, I do not add it in any particular order, but I do like to saute my vegetables beforehand. Now, I have 2 videos on my channel on how I make carne guisada. This one right here is my easy version, which is my second video. My very first video on carne guisada is a little more, how would I say, it's a little more meticulous. I do sear the meat individually and get like a nice crust on each of my beef pieces, but this one is ideal for like a quick, delicious weeknight dinner that is a lot less fussy, but equally delicious. So I'm gonna go ahead and just give this all a nice stir. And by doing this, I am sauteing the sofrito and all the other ingredients to bring out the best flavor. So now that my meat is nice and fragrant, I'm gonna add enough water that not only will it cover my meat, but I'm leaving room for the potatoes that I will add later on. Now, I am going to be braising this on medium low for about an hour and a half until my meat is nice and tender. During that time, the liquid will reduce a little bit. However, if you find that the liquid reduces a little too much for your liking, simply just add a little extra water and you're good to go. I also remembered that I had some peppers in the fridge that I didn't want it to go bad, so I threw those in there, but feel free to add some chopped carrots, which I didn't have today. And yeah, so I'm just gonna cover this and let it continue cooking. So now that I have my carne guisada going, and it's set on medium low, I don't have to worry about it for a good while. I'm gonna go ahead and start on my rice. So here I have 2 cups of medium grain rice. I'm gonna give it a good rinse in my Japanese rice strainer. I got this on Amazon. It's very affordable and very, very convenient. So I'm gonna give that a good rinse in cold water, strain, and I'm good to go. All right, now I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil. I'm adding 2 tablespoons of olive oil because I am making 2 cups of medium grain rice. I like to add equal parts. It's just easy for me to remember. And then I'm gonna add about 1.5 teaspoons of salt, but as always, adjust all the ingredients according to your preference, especially the salt. So since I'm making 2 cups of medium grain rice, I'll be adding 2.5 cups of water. However, if you are using long grain rice, I'll be sure to add those adjustments in the description box below. So as soon as my water comes to a boil, that's when I add my rice. And by the way, my heat is set at high heat. And I'm gonna let it continue cooking on high heat for only a minute. And then once the water comes back to a boil, I will reduce my heat to medium, cover it with the lid, and let it cook for about 15 minutes or so until most of the water or all of it is evaporated. And then I go from there. All right, so it's been about an hour and 15 minutes. Gonna check on my carne guisada. The meat is pretty tender at this point, and as I mentioned earlier, the liquid will reduce a bit, and that's normal. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add 2 small yellow potatoes. I like to keep the skin on. It's just really good. Like when it comes to yellow and red potato, I like leaving the skin. Simply peel it off if that's what you prefer to do. And I am gonna add a little bit more water, just because I need the liquid to cover the potatoes so that they can cook. So yeah, gonna let this continue cooking for an additional 20 minutes. However, you can let it cook for even longer if you want everything extremely, extremely tender. All right, so now let's make my sweet plantains. All right, let's make these sweet platanos maduros, and I am just simply frying them up in a little bit of vegetable oil. And since these are super ripe, they're gonna cook really, really fast. I say about 2 minutes on each side. The more ripe the plantain is, the better and the sweeter it is. All right, so my carne guisada is pretty much done. And this is a little tip that I kind of came up with on my own. But now that my potatoes are nice and soft, I get like 1 or 2 pieces of potato and I will mash it up with my fork because the starch in the potato will help thicken up my broth really, really nicely without having to add like some flour or cornstarch just to make the liquid thicker. It works perfectly every single time. And just like that, my meal is complete. So from start to finish, everything took a little over 2 hours, but I find that for these cozy, comforting meals, they just take a little extra time and a little extra love, but it's all worth it in the end. And the broth in my carne guisada came out so rich and hearty and delicious. It was perfect for these chilly, rainy days that we've been having where I'm at. Just perfect. Now, what would have given it the perfect final touch would have been some chopped carrots, but I didn't have any on hand, and sometimes you just gotta make do with what you got, and that's okay. But yeah, as long as you have, your sofrito and your important spices, then you're good to go. And that is all for today's video. If you've enjoyed today's Cook With Me, let me know in the comments section down below. And as always, please make sure to subscribe, like this video, and to hit that notification bell so that you can be notified when a new video is out. Until next time.